Hi everyone, this is Tom. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to talk about how the road to success, the path to success and growth and developing new skills, getting better at anything, how that path can be really boring. And I think it's really important to talk about this because often you get this impression, especially from social media, watching other people's journeys and hearing people reflect back on their journey. You get this impression that it's going to be exciting. You're going to be pumped up the whole way through. You're going to be excited about the process. And I think the reality is slightly different. Over many years, I've been setting goals, having ambitions, and working towards those goals. And they involve a lot of repetitive, boring, mundane work that doesn't get you that excited, but needs to be done in order to achieve those goals. So let's start by kind of explaining why this process is quite boring and also why this is a problem. The boring side of things can be an issue. So you imagine you've got you here and then you've got your goals, your ultimate goal and success and what you want to achieve. And between you and your goal and the success is a lot of work. And that work is going to be quite repetitive and just hard work, really. So when you first start out, when you first set your goal and you say, I want to get in really great shape, or I want to do really well in this exam, or I want to work my way up through my career and achieve this thing. When you first set out with it, it's exciting, it's novel, it's new. Your brain is stimulated because it's like, oh, there's this new thing that I'm doing. And so this novelty kind of carries you through the beginning stage. But then very quickly, after a few weeks, you realize you're doing the same thing day in, day out. So for example, let's say you're going to the gym, you're trying to get stronger. You realize that 3 or 4 times a week, you're going to the gym, you're doing the same program, you're lifting the same weights, you're seeing the same people. And now it's getting kind of boring. And you think, this maybe I should mix this up. So at some point along this journey, it goes from exciting and novel to boring and repetitive. And then the problem comes that a bit further on, you start to think, maybe because I'm bored, maybe because I don't feel excited about this anymore, maybe it's the wrong thing for me to aim for. If this was the right goal, then I would be excited the whole way through. And at that point, you start looking at other things, you get distracted by other goals. Oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, maybe I should be doing this other thing. And at that point, you give up. And if you give up, you never achieve the success you want to achieve. And you just go from one goal to the next goal to the next goal, basically hunting down this novelty. But then any goal that you have, however exciting it is, however big and potentially life-changing it is, whatever thing that you set your mind to, eventually the repetition and the hard work will become boring. So in order to achieve anything, you need to stick with it despite it being boring. So some key lessons here. Growth and success involves simple, boring, repetitive, hard work. There's no way to avoid this, really. Second thing is the brain responds to novelty. So your brain's always hunting out something new, something exciting, something novel, and it turns itself off when you get to this simple, boring, repetitive, hard work. And the final thing is repetition and simple, boring, hard work will lead to losing interest in that thing. But that doesn't mean that the thing is not as valuable as it was when you first set out and it seemed novel to you. So in this video, I want to give you some solutions, some ways, some strategies that can help you stick with something long enough that you achieve success. So for example, I've written quite a few books. So here we've got, this is the Zero to Finals Medicine book. This book is 369 pages long, and it's absolutely jam-packed. Each page takes probably a couple of hours to write. And then there's obviously the editing, proofreading, and repetitive, boring process of getting it refined to the point where it's very useful. That's incredibly boring. When I first start out writing a book, I've done about, I think, 7 of these now if you include the second edition. And when you first start out, it's really exciting. Oh, I'm writing this book. This is great. First few pages, really fun, exciting. Once you get to page 200, and you've now spent hundreds of hours doing this boring, repetitive work, at that point, you really feel like giving up. Oh, maybe this book isn't going to be that popular. Maybe it's not going to be that useful. All these doubts start creeping in. Oh, maybe I should focus on YouTube videos. Maybe I should focus on this other thing. And the problem there is there's this temptation to give up. But I've learned through this process that doing and sticking with this boring hard work is what results in the outcomes and the achievements that you really want. And sometimes you just got to believe in it and have this belief that it will ultimately be helpful and useful and worthwhile, and make sure you finish that goal that you've set your mind to. So, solutions. The first solution is have a clear goal and a clear meaning. So what do I mean by this? Well, you need to really set a very clear goal. And the problem is, if you don't set a clear goal, as you get bored with something, you'll just switch to something else. But if you have a very clear goal that's written down, for example, I want to finish this book, or I want to lose 5 kilograms in weight, or I want to be able to, say, bench press this amount of kilograms, or I want to learn all of these topics ready for my exam on this date. If you have a very clear goal that's written down, when things get boring and your brain is looking for novelty, you can turn back to that clearly stated goal and reinforce it and make sure you keep going. The other thing is to have meaning. So why is this important? And it's important to define why something's important, so that when it gets boring and your brain switches off and your brain tells you, I'm not excited about this, I don't want to be doing this, you can look back at why it's important and why you should keep going despite being bored. Second solution is just acceptance. So this is accepting that it's supposed to feel like this. When you get deep into the process of trying to achieve a goal, it's going to be boring, it's going to be repetitive, everything's going to be a little bit understimulating, and that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. And that's a good sign that you are doing the process properly. And then by accepting that and just doing the work anyway, that can sometimes just be enough to say, okay, I don't need some novelty. I'm just going to stick with this. It's just going to take me 3 months or 6 months, and I'm going to get through it. Third point is to focus on process. So what do I mean? This means having a clear strategy that defines your actions. So it says, okay, in order to achieve my goal, in order to get to this place, here are the set of actions. Here's the set of things I need to do each day or each week to get to that goal. So, for example, if you're doing a workout program, you'll have a clear set of actions like 3 days a week. You go to the gym, you do these sets, these reps, you record the results, and then you go home, you eat this particular diet, you do this particular cardio, and that's just your set of actions that you need to undertake. So even if you're feeling unmotivated, you still have a clear set of actions. So for example, if you're revising for an exam, you would have a clear strategy. Okay, 5 days a week, I'm going to do these 1.5 hour block sessions covering these topics, and I'm just going to do those regardless of how I feel. Often, if you have a clear strategy, once you kind of get into the work, you get into it. But if you just go on how you feel that day and you're halfway through your journey to this goal and you're not feeling very motivated, you're just not going to do the work. But if you have clear actions you need to take, you can just do the work regardless of how you feel. If you're not motivated, you're a bit tired, you still just do the work because you have this strategy, this clear set of actions. The worst thing you can do is leave it to how you feel. If you just say, well, I just don't feel like it today, can't really be bothered, before you know it, you're not going to be doing anything. And you'll end up just scrolling on your phone or doing something not very productive. So have a clear set of actions and just do them regardless of how you feel. And often once you get started, then you feel a bit more motivated. Next thing you can do is add some artificial novelty to the situation. What do I mean by this? Well, this is figuring out a way to do the work you need to do, but adding some kind of novelty in that makes you more excited about doing it. So, for example, when it comes to writing books, something I've done is try to work in a place that's out of my normal routine. So go to a new coffee shop, go to a new library, work in somebody's house in like a room where I'm not going to get disturbed. I've done weird things like start working in my garage or start working in the conservatory or doing something that makes it more exciting. So you could even change the lighting, you could change background music, do something that makes it a little bit different, even though you're doing the same boring, repetitive work. A good example, if you're working out, is you could change the gym that you go to. You could change the people. So if you have a training partner, you could train with a different partner. You could do it at a different time of day. So anything that kind of switches things up and makes it a bit more novel and a bit more exciting. So one thing you could try is if you tend to work in the evenings, set an alarm for like 4 a.m. and that novelty of having to get up at 4 a.m. and do work, that novelty might just be a bit of excitement that gets you to do the stuff. Next thing is to balance stress and rest. So if you imagine a chart, on the y-axis you've got stress, and on the x-axis you've got time. What you want is periods of stress. So this is where you get the work done. And this is kind of the stimulation. So it could be going to the gym and training hard. It could be sitting down and revising for a couple of hours. It could be just getting a bunch of work done that needs to be done. And you need to balance that with periods of rest. So this is where you have low stress. And the periods of rest allow you to, first of all, consolidate what you've learnt, recover from your workout or your training, but also regain some motivation. If you work all the time really hard, your motivation will just keep dropping and dropping and dropping. The novelty will keep dropping and dropping and dropping. And eventually you'll just get burnt out. But if you balance the periods of stress with periods of rest, the rest period will regenerate your novelty, your excitement, your enthusiasm for it, and let you work harder the next time. So what you want is work, rest, then work, rest, work, rest, work, rest. And this is like periods of stress and rest balanced with each other. And so this could be within a day. So you do a couple of hours of stressful work, a couple of hours of rest, a couple of hours of work, a couple of hours of rest. It could be over the course of a month. So you have like intense work days, relaxed, say weekends off or days off. And then it could be over a year. So you have a 6-month period of lots and lots of stress. And then say a 2-month period where you go a lot lighter and you have a lot more rest. So in a way, I'm in a bit of a rest period at the moment with work, because I had a really intense period a bit earlier this year where I was doing a video every day, plus a bunch of other stuff, training really hard, doing loads and loads of goals at the same time. And that was like a stressful period for me. And the last month or so, I've been having a more restful period where I'm doing a lot less work, a lot less exercise, and kind of recovering my enthusiasm and looking forward to a really stressful, intense period coming up where I'm going to really hit things hard all over again. So yeah, stress stimulates the growth, and then rest allows the growth to happen, and rest also resets the novelty and the motivation. Okay, next point is to switch off distractions. The lesson here is switch off or get rid of your phone, particularly as the day starts out. So I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed the same thing, but suppose when I first wake up, I go and start checking emails, checking social media accounts, see if I've got messages, checking the news, all that kind of stuff. If I do that straight away, my day is so much worse. My motivation is lower, my kind of get up and go, my excitement is lower. Everything is just kind of a bit bleh. Whereas if I, get out of bed, don't touch my phone for the first, say, 3-4 hours of the day, I don't check anything, I'm just focused on what I need to do, my day is so much better. Everything is so much better. My motivation is better. My enthusiasm is better. My energy is better. Everything is better. And this really is because your brain, like we already said, is looking for novelty. Your phone gives a constant supply of excitement and novelty. So even just as simple as opening your messages, opening WhatsApp, opening emails, you're going to get a bunch of new sort of quick stimulation and novelty into your brain. And if you start scrolling on some social media account or going on YouTube or whatever, you're getting constant novelty, constant excitement, and your brain is just overwhelmed by this. It's like a drug. So this is like, taking a really quite a hard recreational drug. And then you're expecting real life to be just as exciting. So I don't know where I heard this, but someone was arguing that the real reason you should never do drugs, you should never do any sort of recreational drugs, is because real life becomes so much less interesting after you've done drugs. So your experience is so exciting when you do that normal experiences then don't become that exciting. And you can look at this across any kind of field. So let's say you're looking at your diet. If you live on junk food that's designed to be incredibly delicious and tasty, and then you look at broccoli, you're not going to be excited about the broccoli. So if you say like, oh, I'm going to have some fried chicken, some like spicy noodles, some chocolate, some cheesecake, cookies, whatever your junk food of choice is, and then somebody gives you a bowl of broccoli, you're not going to be like, I really want to eat the broccoli. You're going to be already kind of saturated with really intensely delicious foods. Whereas if you don't eat anything and you're feeling really hungry, you haven't had any of this junk food, and then somebody gives you a bowl of broccoli, that broccoli is going to be delicious. You're going to enjoy it so much. The same is true with your phone and with, getting hard work done. If you go on your phone and you start looking at all these kind of exciting, novel, immediately stimulating things, and then someone says, okay, you need to sit down for 2 hours and do this relatively boring work. That boring work's going to be so boring. You're going to be thinking, oh, my phone is so much more interesting. Your brain is going to be thinking, go for the phone, go for the phone, go for the phone. Don't go for this really boring work that you need to do for the next 2 hours. Whereas if you don't go near your phone and you have lots of empty space and you go about your morning, you have your breakfast, you get ready to go out the house and you have no stimulation from anywhere, and then you arrive to do some work and you've not had any stimulation, and you've got this work now that you get to do for the next 2 hours, it's going to be exciting and fun. So the lesson here is really start with your agenda, start with the things that you want to get done, and get rid of all the cheap stimulation. Don't go on your phone. Don't check your emails. Don't check your messages. Nothing is that urgent. It's very unlikely that you'll miss anything. You can catch up on all this stuff later if you need to. But yeah, really just prioritize the important stuff and get rid of the cheap stimulation that's going to distract you and make all the important stuff seem much more boring. And the final thing is to involve other people. Ultimately, we're quite sociable animals. Things are much more fun when we've got other people involved. So if you can get other people involved without it being a distraction, without it being something that takes away from what you're doing. What do I mean by this? Well, let's say I need to sit down and write a book. If I've got other people who want to chat to me and they're just going to interrupt me and be a distraction, that's not good. But if it's a situation where having other people involved can be quite helpful, then great, get other people involved. There will be so many benefits to it. Firstly, it will keep you accountable. So if you've got someone else who's doing the same thing, let's say they're revising for the same exam and you go to the library together, you agree to sit, not interrupting each other for an hour and get work done. That partner in doing that can keep you accountable. Second thing, people can add some novelty. So having someone involved or even different people can kind of create the novelty that makes it exciting. You can make it more fun. You can have breaks together, go and grab coffee, and you're in it together. And the other thing is it can kind of push you harder. So a good example of this is I'm really into climbing at the minute, and I do meet up I've got kind of like a climbing crew where we all meet up and go climbing together. And different people come on different days. So it's not always the same people, but it's a relatively small crew. And so there's always the excitement of like seeing a friend, climbing together, you push each other, you kind of talk about the climb, you can give each other tips. And there's novelty because you might see somebody you haven't seen for a couple of weeks and then a different person. And you also climb kind of harder because, somebody's watching you. You want to, there's a little bit of competition there. And it's really all around great to have other people involved in that, as opposed to just climbing on my own, kind of get bored and becomes a bit repetitive and less interesting. So I hope that video was helpful. That's the end of the video. Ultimately, getting hard things done, working towards big goals can be boring. That's normal. That's okay. But there are some things that you can do to make sure you do it anyway. If you want a really nice version of these notes, I'll add them to the Zero to Finals Patreon. There's a link in the description. And you can download the notes so you don't have to go through the whole video to remind you of what we talked about. And go get those goals. Switch off your phone, do the hard stuff, do the boring work. And I'll see you in the next video, which will be in about a week's time. Take care.